that. EK just out of the OJ. Don't run, I ain't let him trip. Hop with the feet and niggas at the blitz. DOA kill all shit to my dick. Ducky B got shot in the leg, what the fuck? Feet keeps, I know you gon'.
Now, the complete history of gangs in the Bronx is long and complex. So for the sake of simplicity, in this story, we will simply focus on a handful of relevant street crews that have made a significant impact in the recent Bronx drill music scene. However, the formation of these crews predates the Bronx drill scene by many years. Many of the names of gangs that you're going to hear referenced in Bronx drill music weren't even around a decade or so ago, as they evolved and splintered off from other crews as the result of internal and external conflicts between their members. One early crew hailing from the Cortland Ave area was known as YGFC, or the Young Gunners from Cortland. This crew was a subset of a much larger gang called the YGs, or Young Gunners. The YGs apparently started around 2003 and was primarily based in two project buildings, the Mott Haven houses and the Patterson houses, with another set later popping up in the Bronx's River Park Towers, or RPT projects, around 2010. And the leader of the YGs back in the day was a man named Jew Hef, real name Jutha Perez, an occasional rapper as well as a respected street figure. Sadly, however, Jew Hef was not able to keep his troops in the street united for long. Apparently, in the midst of a disagreement between high-ranking members, including a man named Melly Mel Baller, would see several members branching off and making their own crew. This would eventually see the Young Gunners from Cortland, or YGFC, breaking off from the YGs altogether and dropping the Y from their name, becoming the GFC, or God's Favorite Children. At a certain point, they became OGFC, or the Original Goons from Cortland, before eventually simplifying and settling on OGs, or Original Goons. So the OGs, with their beginnings in the Young Gunners from Cortland, naturally hail from Cortland Ave. This area has a reputation as being one of the most dangerous hoods in the Bronx, with three main housing projects generally affiliated with the OGs: Melrose Houses, Jackson Houses, and Morrisania, aka Vietnam. These were three notorious blocks known to the authorities for their gang activity, with all three buildings actually being targeted in a 2009 federal indictment named Operation Rotten Apple, which took 37 drug pushers off the streets from these very buildings, charging a total of 53 gang members after a year-long undercover operation. Melly Mel Baller, the OG's pioneer who I mentioned before, formerly of the YGs, would get himself convicted in a big case too. A case which was apparently made much easier by a great deal of self-snitching on his own personal Facebook profile. This was a landmark case where apparently a judge ruled that it's legal for a snitch to use evidence that was gained from snooping on friends-only Facebook posts. Apparently Melly Mel Baller had written posts on Facebook marked for friends only, where he would suggest that he buys drugs in quantities as large as 600 grams and claiming to have had over 100 people killed. Melly Mel would ultimately be convicted, receiving a sentence of life plus 420 months. And sadly for the OGs, while their affiliates were fighting for their lives in court, younger members were fighting for their lives in the streets. The most well-known rapper of the YGs in the Bronx is by far D-Thang. D-Thang is no stranger to spinning blocks, apparently regularly making home visits to his ops' homes. D-Thang has also been known to go into enemy territories, pressuring the local bodega workers to throw up rival gang signs to entertain his social media following.
You OGs? OGs out? OGs?
OGs.
Only OGs can't really YG. Y'all see the face. D-Thang G's.
See that G's, Lee?
Y'all see the face. What am I mother?
Names that you might pop up in a YG's affiliated drill video include people like T-Mac, Six, Bando G's, and T-Dot. Yus G's, Nesty Flocks, Shah G's. You've also got the likes of Raji's, a 16-year-old member who was initially known for a viral clip where he tried to get down an op with a walking stick.
In the morning, don't want to run down now. 4 y'all early in the morning. Look. Damn, weave, stupid, suck my.
Now clearly there's no love lost between the modern day members of the OGs and the YGs. The YGs, who we've just mentioned, have big issues with the OGs in the Bronx drill scene, with the main rapper in the area representing the OGs going by Shah EK or Jiggy Man. He's been seen going back and forth with YGs like D-Thang on social media extensively, with the OGs sometimes referring to themselves collectively as the Jiggies, with this being a core part of Shah EK's branding. In fact, he's dropped 2 musical projects referencing this, Jiggy on Jiggy and Get Jiggy or Die Trying, with his track Shoot or Get Shot being one of his breakout songs. He's known to affiliate with the likes of PJ Glizzy and B. Dot, but here's where things get a little bit complicated. Because in the Bronx, some street crews are known to double jack, meaning that they can actually be in alliance with more than one gang at the same time, meaning that there are sometimes quite confusing overlaps and alliances between people in different gangs, and it can get confusing. You've got another crew called the OYs that hail out of Sugar Hill, formerly the original Young Gangsters or OYGs, used to beef with the YGFC or the Young Gunners from Cortland. For a period of time, some OGs and some OYs have connected, sometimes referring to themselves as OYOGs. In fact, Shari K of the OGs has collaborated with numerous OY rappers from Sugar Hill. In fact, it actually turns out that the top rapper from the YGs, D-Thang, is actually engaged in a long and deadly beef with his own cousin too. One of the most famous drill rappers to ever come out of the Bronx, K-Flock. And just to make it even more confusing, he hails from another hood that we haven't actually discussed yet, that seemingly have beef with absolutely everybody. Sevside is an area around East 187th Street. Historically, the gangbangers from Sevside have been in alliance with crews from Mount Vernon and Hilltop known as the HTYBs, or Hilltop Young Bosses, or sometimes just YBs. HTYBs being seen mobbing through the streets of the Bronx as early as 2010, with home movies still circulating online to this day, seemingly showing members running their block claiming Sevside or Hilltop, all while hating on their ops and declaring their intention to K or kill any rivals from the 800s, YGs, or OYs.
Very YB, 7 gang out here, the big suit. Yo, man, YB's up, man. Southside JJ here, man. You know what I'm talking about?
Shout out to my Southside.
Now, much like the other gangs we've discussed so far, after a decade of beef and indictments, a modern-day crew out of Sevside would emerge, with some gangbangers from this area identifying as 700 DOA. This is a crew made up of a mixture of different sub-gang sets, like the Mac Baller Brims and Sex Money Murder Bloods, as well as Crip gangs like the Rolling 80s, because you've got to remember that Bronx gang politics is not as simple as Bloods versus Crips. There's a lot of mixed up and overlapping gang sets that you maybe wouldn't expect traditionally to be cool with each other, but some Bloods and Crips might be in alliance under the umbrella of the 700 DOA crew. And to make it even more confusing, 700 DOA from Sevside apparently identify as EBK, or Everybody Killers, meaning that they hate everybody. There might be a few friendships and alliances between some DOAs and OGs, but one thing's for sure, the guys from DOA have furious beef with the likes of the YGs and the OYs, and things can get very confusing and very dangerous indeed. Now, the most famous of the Sevside rappers from the Bronx drill scene is of course K-Flock. But before he was known for his raps, he was just doing his thing in the dangerous streets of the Bronx alongside a couple of his friends. More specifically, Dougie B and B Love, who actually is OGs, with this trio being Sevside natives growing up on 187th Street in Belmont in the Bronx.
Where are you two from and how did y'all get into this music stuff?
I'm from 187.
187. Okay.
Now, it was apparently B Love who started rapping first out of this trio, funnily enough citing his biggest inspiration in the rap game as Chicago drill rapper turned convicted murderer Rondo No. 9.
Chief, of course, because
Chief's number 2, but my son Rondo number 9. We just step up.
From here, B Love would end up getting Dougie B and K-Flock in front of the microphone with a little encouragement.
I wasn't really the rapper, it's really the rapper right here. I was playing with this shit. I was going to my his side right here, for me. Going to the studio, playing for me. Then I started taking it serious. I see, like, for me, I'm going up for me. My son Love, like, nah, it's time to go take it serious. Like, for me, start playing.
Little did this trio know that together they would be pioneering one of the biggest musical movements to come out of the Bronx since the 70s. But this would have been hard to appreciate at the time, and despite convincing two of his day one homies to get into the rap game, B-Love himself said that he didn't really see the potential in music initially. It was only after spending some time in prison that he would realize that rapping could be a legitimate way out of the streets upon his release.
What was like the moment for you that really kind of made you want to like do this in a more serious manner?
I got locked up. I'm not in charge. When I came home, like, nah, like, you gotta keep going. I started taking shit serious, man. Really taking shit serious.
But sadly, through their journey into the music industry, there's been a whole lot of setbacks and backstabs.
Ain't nobody gonna spend how I saw God here, y'all jacking out with your friend like smoking on yellow, no one did he. And be love ain't still do shit. She get married, dumb ass got hit. That's what of my mother, they never did shit. Like smoking on Yui, butter, guado. Tell a bitch to pick up a stick like